Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and I am pleased to welcome Jack Coppola again from Palm Beach, right?
That's right, Ria. How are you today?
Really good. We had a great interview last week, and that's going to be airing shortly. You are from Coppola Concierge. We actually had an interview in the past about where the yachting industry is going in regards to how owners and charter guests are going to be getting to their vessels, an increase in chartering, an increase in chartering of aircraft, etc. But today I wanted to bring you back to talk about crew salaries. This is a topic that even prior to the coronavirus and its effects straight across the face of the planet, a lot of crew were saying that the salaries have pretty much stayed the same since about the 1980s. There has been absolutely no increase. Now, all of a sudden with COVID, we see that owners and management teams are taking advantage of that to lessen those salaries that actually haven't changed since the 80s. Have you seen that straight across the board?
You know what, Ria? I got into this industry around 2014, 2015. And, at the time, I was working on board airplanes and I had a killer salary. And then, I wanted to experience boats. And the first gig that I had on a boat, they offered $2,500 a month. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't even pay for a left shoe of a Christian Louboutin. So, how is this gonna work? And it's funny, as I kind of climbed the rank and, explored different boats, everything was kind of the same. And it's like, how does yacht crew actually, you know, survive on this, especially after taxes? Being in America, tax, 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 that's all they want to do. And, even talking to individuals in the industry that have been in since, the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they said that nothing has changed.
Do you think it's a fault of those that are accepting these salaries, or do you think it's the fact that crew are coming on board and not realizing that they should be paid more? What is the issue here, and why are the salaries stagnating?
You know what? 100%. It's kind of a 50-50 because you get new yacht crew that are eager to work and they want to do it for, anything. Then again, the higher ups, your captains, your management teams, your placement agencies, when you apply for a job as a green, you know, person or in a green position, they go immediately to, oh, well, you have no experience. So when they say you have no experience on a boat, now that person, the worker, the steward, the deckhands, whoever it may be, they're going to be desperate and take a job for $100 a day, 120 a day, 150 a day, because there are the higher up saying you're not qualified and you're not experienced for this. So we can pay you peanuts to get your compensation and experience. So, I kind of see it stemming from, both sides, which is really upsetting because, you do get the chief stews and the pursers and the captains that have been in the industry for a while. They complain about the salaries, but, they're kind of the culprit of saying to the younger generation, hey, you don't have experience, accept this job at 150. And, all the new generations coming up are in the trend and in the lead of, accepting jobs for nothing.
Do you find that, there's been times in the past where they've compared, like the cruise ship industry, for example, to yachting. The cruise ship industry, generally straight across the board, is quite a bit of a lower level as far as pay goes. Is there a reason for that?
What, cruise ships are completely different in my opinion. Yes, it's a boat. Yes, it's on water. Yes, there's, hundreds of crew. But keep in mind, your cruise ships are guaranteed a charter, a trip, a vacation every single week. So on what is it, Norwegian cruise lines, they have what they call the Royal Genies. The Royal Genies are the butlers in the VIP master suites and of the higher caliber over there. The VIP genies are paid $2,000 US dollars a month, but they strive off of tip. They're getting tip every single week, and their tips are frankly really, really good. Sometimes better than what a a yacht charter would be on a 150 footer. So I know a few people that I met in Butler School that work as Royal Genies. They make some killer money. They have guaranteed schedules. They have, flexibility to travel, whether it's the South Pacific, the Pacific, the Caribbean, Mediterranean. They really have a lot more flexibility. So, cruise ships are also very commercial. So your salaries are pretty much going to be the same. But again, these people strive, on tips. So even when you go to the spa on a cruise ship, it's all tip driven. Yes, the service might be free. The service might be $50 for a facial, but you're really, you know, getting that experience from the skilled spa tech on board, and then you're going to be tipping them well, which is what they strive for.
So, for example, say you're a chef with 10 crew and you've got guests, another 6 guests on board. Back in, say, 1900s, no, back, say, in like 2010, what would they be getting paid?
2010, I would probably assume around 300, to 350 is desired. I think back then they were maybe getting, 275 depending on the situation. And again, we also have to keep in mind there's a lot of freelance chefs and there's a lot of full-time chefs. So you kind of have to, figure the actual position of them.
So, but I mean, they haven't lost any of their professionalism. I mean, if anything, they've gotten better at their craft. They are constantly going back to school. Even the owners and management teams are stating that they want this experience. You need to be a sushi chef as well as you need to be able to do all gluten-free or vegetarian or vegan. And so every year there is another thing that is put onto the resume of a chef, for example, which means that you have to go back to school, you have to take another course, you have to take another class. So why isn't the salary matching that?
You know what, Rhea? I've worked a few chef gigs. I've had vegans. I've had vegans that were grain-free, which is really hard because that means they can't eat quinoa, they can't have any barley, they can't have any farro, they can't have anything like that, which basically is all vegetables. Then you get a grandmother that wants, a low salt diet. You have someone that likes spicy, and you're basically a shorthand chef, from Denny's, providing meals to every single person on the boat. So, you know what? You're right. Crew agencies, in particular, they want plating courses. They want, food sanitation courses, which I think is necessary. And yet they want to give, chefs a $300 a day when, like what you just said, there's 10 crew and 8 guests and there's, 15 different dietary restrictions. So, why aren't the chefs saying, hey, you know what, my minimum is $550 a day. This is a full-on charter. And not only do you, not have a budget for any, delivery services, I now have to physically go out and provision everything, come back, put it all away, vacuum seal what has to be vacuum sealed, still cook for the crew while we're at the dock, and then tomorrow we depart on a 16-hour crossing to Nassau.
Well, the thing is that the costs of chartering a yacht haven't changed. Every year those costs are getting higher and people are paying them because they want to go on a yacht charter. And if you're ultra high net worth, it doesn't matter whether it's an extra 10,000 this week or this year over last year, you're going to pay that because this is what experience you want every single summer. So where is that money going? Is it that costs overall have gone up, or is it just that the top end wants to make more money and taking it from the staff or the crew is where they're getting it?
Yacht charters have definitely gone up. I actually just booked a charter yesterday. It was a 130-foot boat, and they were asking about 30,000 more than what the boat would really be worth. So, are they doing it because they missed out on the rest of the winter season for COVID? Are they doing it because the owner is desperate for money? Are they doing it because they know that the yachting industry is going to be more and more popular and they're trying to weed out, people that wouldn't particularly charter a boat? But at the same token, where is that money going? I mean, really, that owner netted about $145,000 in 7 days, and the owner didn't really have to do anything. So, is that you know, is that money going to crew salaries? Is that money going to maintenance? Is that money going to, their new house in the Hamptons? We really don't know. But at the same token, you get on these yacht charters and, granted, gratuity is, strongly suggested for the crew because they're working, 16, 17, 18-hour days. And I really think that when there's a charter, yes, the owner pays salary. Yes, the crew will get a gratuity. But I think the owner should really be giving the crew an extra per diem of $150 or $200 per day on top of their salary.
Well, at the end of the day, you can charter any boat on the face of the planet. What really makes the experience everything that it is those that are making sure that every one of your needs are met. And that is the crew.
Crew. It is the crew. So that's the thing. If we, treat the crew how the crew wants to be treated, the crew's going to stay. I mean, yeah. I'm sure you've heard the expression "happy wife, happy life."
Yes.
Right. So I say, happy crew, happy captain, happy owner. Only because I've worked for owners that have been very, very, very generous with, extra per diems when we were on charter, giving appropriate days off, ensuring that we were taken care of, when we were off charter. And guess what? The crew of that boat has been with the boat for, what was that? Captain was with the boat for 16 years. I think wow. The chief stew and a few of the deckhands have been with the boat for over 6 years.
And that's pretty phenomenal in this industry because it is very nomadic and crew change quite often. So to have them for that long, that's definitely, obviously they're being treated right.
100%. I mean, average turnover on a boat is 3 to 6 months. I mean, yeah. Depending where you are, depending what the program is. And again, that also stems back to the captain, which is kind of the middleman between, the owner and the crew. So, I think if you really have a level-headed, captain, who will kind of express what the crew needs, then you have a potential for a really good situation.
Well, see, now I know that working in the States, there are different rules and regulations. How different is it being employed in Europe, for example, than it is in the States?
Well, I mean, of course, in the States, you have, Americans. Granted, Americans can really work on, any flagged boat. In particular, I actually enjoy working on foreign flag boats because there's actually a tax loophole for us. But working in the States on an American flag boat is difficult. They can only employ American crew. And a lot of times, American flagged vessels will highly suggest that you're what they call a 1099 contractor. It's, especially beneficial for the owner to pay the crew as a contractor because it's a heavier write-off for the owner versus doing payroll, W-2, providing benefits and so on and so forth. But that being said, as a 1099 contractor, you now have to pay for your taxes. You have to pay for your expenses. You have to pay for your health care potentially. You have to pay for, the whole line of things. So if you board a boat and they offer you a $2,500 a month salary, after taxes, that comes to roughly $1,700. If you break it down even further and you work a 16-hour day, you're basically working for about $6.33 per hour.
Wow. That's, wow. I mean, with all the tickets and all the investment and everything else that goes into becoming crew, just to start, that's insane.
It's insane. So, I mean, honestly, I can go get a job at Starbucks right now, have healthcare benefits, have vacation for, I think in Florida, it's $8.50 or $9 is minimum wage, and also have a life. I can have flexibility because I can, work my 40 hours a week and go and come as I please. Granted, you're living on a super yacht. You have your food, covered. You have your laundry covered. But at the same token, if you have a car, if you have car insurance, if you have a cell phone, $6.33 is not gonna cover any of that.
Well, and I think, one of the biggest things is that yacht crew don't necessarily think about their exit strategy out of the gate. We go in and you're making all this money when you're young, and you don't realize that one day there is going to come a point where you're going to have to leave yachting. And now, if you've been taking full advantage of tax-free life, there's nothing out there. I mean, yay, you got to save all your taxes all the way along, but what those taxes actually do is guarantee that you've got some sort of retirement, safety net, et cetera. Well, you don't have that then. What would you suggest to crew that are looking at getting out of yachting?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So my business partner and I were actually in the middle of completing a financial advisor course. So we will actually be, excuse me, conducting financial courses for yacht crew on how to set up IRA plans, set up life insurance policies, basically how to manage your money in a, fundamental way that you can actually have a life set up when you're done. So you can actually have a life of retirement, because you know what? Myself as a millennial in high school, we did not go over retirement. If we did, it was like one day. Maybe it was the day that I skipped class, or maybe it was the day I didn't go to school. But you know what? When I was, working on board boats, I'm like, this is really, kind of a fantastic opportunity to really, store some money away. Granted, I have this cash tip coming in from the charters. I can spend, $400-500 of that cash tip on, personal expenses, and the rest should be just saved. So I think a lot of people kind of miss the memo of, hey, zoom out and actually look at your situation. So soon enough, within the next few weeks, we're actually going to be coming up with some master classes that's going to help guide crew, um, how to save money, how to invest the money, and how to actually budget what they need and don't need.
Well, that's really exciting because absolutely, to be honest with you, I did some series earlier this year in regards to investment managers sort of taking advantage of young crew, as it were, and really them losing a lot of money over being given false information or being told, because the nature of the business is that yacht crew come in, they're told that, oh yeah, it's a really good idea to start investing. One of these investor portfolio guys comes in and he slaps down a 30 or 40 page, contract. It says sign here. And because the captain was the one that invited them on board, and crew is, crew has to follow their captain. If captain invited him, so then obviously he's trustworthy, sign away their life. And they don't realize until later that the first 20 years of paying off whatever program they bought actually is not even saving or investing. It's going to paying, the fees for the broker or whatever. So the idea that you're going to be opening up the possibility for these people to sort of figure it out themselves, I think, is absolutely amazing, and it's very essential.
Right. And yeah, I mean, we're not, financial advisors.
Yeah.
We give financial advice. We're not taking their money. We're not saying, hey, you need to do this. We're showing them what they can do, and we can
Right.
give them the contacts and the setups to do it, which is really, really fantastic, because you know what? I've actually interviewed financial advisors to manage my portfolios. And, doing the interviews, I'm like, I don't like where this is going, because they kind of said, wire us money and we'll do things with it. And I'm like, that sounds great. That sounds like a great spam or fraud right there. So, it was pretty interesting. And then actually, when we were, doing some research, we actually figured out that 41% of financial advisors don't even have their own finances set away. So it was kind of like, okay, we need to just come up with a class to, you know, either promote awareness to yacht crew, or to kind of say, hey, these are the ways that you can do it. So, it's going to be a major benefit to everyone. And, of course, they go to Rybovich and everyone's there buying bottles of wine and beer and this and that, and which is great. It's good to have a fun time, but that's like an everyday occurrence. So if they understand the value of, say a $30 bottle of wine versus, a $7 to $9 glass of wine, what they can put away and what they can have, down the line.
Well, so this program is not just going to be for American crew, it's going to be for worldwide crew.
We're working on the worldwide. It's a little bit different. As being in Spain, there's different setups, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
For taxes and investments. So that's something that we're doing further research in. Now, granted, a lot of this industry is made up of foreign crew, which kind of had the benefit because they could work in the States and they really don't have to pay taxes here, especially if it's a foreign flag boat. So if they're foreign crew, they would have to be. So they really actually have quite a loophole, but we're just trying to figure out what system we can, suggest to them, to benefit them in their own country.
Well, and I mean, it's just a general idea. It's like you said, I mean, in school, they don't really teach much about, the future and how to manage their finances and how to set up even a savings account, for heaven's sakes. I mean, those sort of things, they don't even talk about anymore. I think the schooling system nowadays is exactly the same way it was 30 years ago, which is a travesty because you take a look at the way the world has moved in 30 years and where we are compared to 30 years ago. Right from the fact that you had to sit and use your phone while it was plugged into the wall 30 years ago, and now you have a mini computer everywhere you go. But yet our education system hasn't changed. So to me, that's kind of baffling. And we are seeing, reams of kids coming out of school with absolutely no concept about the very, very basic necessities of life. And prime example is the crew coming out and making good money, not probably as good as they should be making, but making good money and not really knowing what to do with it aside from spend it.
It's so true. I mean, I think the school systems are fighting technology rather than adapting to it.
Yeah.
Granted, when I was in high school, they were trying to, promote the no cell phone in class rule. But come my senior year, they were actually saying, oh, use your phone as a search engine to, research, X, Y, and Z that we were doing that day. Only because the school systems actually figured out it was cheaper that everyone had their own cell phone, and then the schools didn't have to supply iPads, computers, whatever, which was kind of interesting. And it actually created a little bit of drama in the school that I went to because there were some kids that weren't as fortunate and they, either didn't have data plans, but the school wouldn't give out the school Wi-Fi. So the school was saying, hey, use your device that you pay for and you pay for the service and research for what you're learning here. But they didn't want to give out the, essential Wi-Fi service to actually do that. So there was actually, quite a bit of controversy, when that was going on. And I think it's settled now. But I mean, history class, it's history class. Math class, they're going over algebra and all these crazy things that I couldn't even tell you one thing about. And frankly, I think it was third grade, they made you go over your times tables, and people still don't know them, especially my generation. So I think if they kind of go back to the, keep some standards of the 1900s alive on the basic necessities, but get rid of all bullshit. I mean, we don't need algebra. We don't need, I can't even think. Biology, yeah, if you're using it in your profession, great. But if you're going to college and you know what you're going to do, you're going to learn that. But everything else was so not essential. I mean, I think they should really be getting into more technology about web design, SEO, keywords, how the, marketing.
Everything is digital. Everything is digital now. And that is really where the focus needs to be, because if you don't have your digital, then, it's even with crew. The fact is pretty much everything that you do on board is digital. I mean, right from a chief stew having, whatever app that she uses to make sure everything is done correctly, the captain, it's all everything is digital now. So, you don't need to learn algebra when you can enter that equation into your phone, unless of course you're a captain, because that does, come into play. But you don't need that sort of thing. You need to know how to utilize, the tips and tricks of the trade. Yeah.
I mean, big time. I mean, as for an engineer, yeah, you might be doing some simple math down there, but even in engineering world, I mean, there are systems down in the engine room that basically tell you how much fuel and oil you're burning at X speed,
Yeah.
X, environment. So, I just think it's really interesting, which almost goes back to the, salaries that we were talking about of, you know, if they have to do algebra in an engine room, are they being paid enough to do that?
Well, coming from somebody who hates math, I don't think anybody ever would get paid enough to be doing algebra. Just my personal opinion,
Nope.
but that's okay. Well, Jack, you know what? It's been very informative as always. I would really like to sort of maybe at a further date revisit, and if we could sort of pull together some facts and figures of what salaries were like, say, in the 1980s and 1990s, and compare them to what salaries are like today, and as well take a look at the cost of living back then compared to the cost of living today, because straight across, we're not even talking the yachting industry, but you take a look at what people are getting paid in general nowadays, with the cost of living comparatively, it's just absolutely scary. So I'd really like to see that within the yachting industry as well. And I'm sure that a lot of people out there would be interested in seeing that as well.
I think I can definitely conjure up some numbers and talk to some older connections and say, hey, what were you getting paid back then? And what are you getting paid now?
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. And like you said, we can even just compare a simple, cell phone plan, car insurance plan, the average car payment, fuel,
Yeah.
versus what they're making on board after taxes and really see, is yachting a good money maker?
Yeah. Well, and is it in the future, is it going to be a good moneymaker? Or as we're seeing with salaries and going down, is it going to lose its gloss and luxury aspect of it, as it were? Because you pay for what you get. And
Right.
so if they're constantly trying to scrape money off salaries, you're going to end up with those that are getting into yachting because they need a job, not because they have a passion for what they do. And when you lose the passion in what you do, then the results are less than stellar.
And you know what? I've already been seeing it, and it's frustrating, but it's kind of good because I go in and train them up.
Well, then you've got a job for life then if this continues.
Right.
Once again, thank you ever so much for your time, Jack. We really do appreciate you coming back here to Yachting International Radio.
My pleasure. It was absolutely amazing being here and seeing you again. So I'll see you all soon.
Wonderful. Once again, that has been Jack Coppola from Coppola Concierge in Palm Beach, Florida. You have been watching the Yacht Crew vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I have been your host. Please tune in again for another episode.